I'm Edie Lash, and I'm here inside the Hub Culture Studio, Davos 2022. It may not look like summer outside, but apparently it is.
Apparently it is. Oh, it is raining cats and dogs out there.
It is raining. Sian Sutherland, co-founder and chief changemaker of A Plastic Planet.
That is me.
Stepped inside. You've got one mission in life, right? Yep. What is it?
To ignite and inspire the world to turn off the plastic tap.
Okay, turning off the plastic tap. So what's the biggest problem that we're not seeing right now?
Plastic, to me, the thing that I find so extraordinary, my obsession as an entrepreneur, the reason I'm so obsessed by plastic is I think it's the gateway. Mm-hmm. I think it is, if we fix plastic, the plastic crisis, the omnipresence of plastic in our lives, if we can wean ourselves off this toxic and indestructible material, we will change directly and indirectly so much. Because if you look back and think, we all know about plastic pollution, you know, where have you been? You've been living under a rock if you don't feel guilty about plastic. But it's much, much more than that. There is an invisibility to plastic. You know, 70% of all our clothes are made out of fossil fuel plastic now. We've just literally got plastic bags hanging in the wardrobe. Nobody knows. So there is this extraordinary invisibility around plastic. But the real reason for me is if you look at, here we are at Davos. We're talking about the climate crisis. You know, what
talking about the war in Ukraine, the increase in energy crisis.
All of these things, you know, the conflict, climate, you know, food security, all of these things. And you think, so how did we get where we are? And a huge part of it for me is, of course, the problem with hyperconsumption. And what is the one material that we invented, really started to use some 40 years ago, that enabled us to ramp up to these giddy levels of hyperconsumption, that enabled us to break that model of take, make, refill, repair,
recycle,
share,
reuse.
All of those things we use to take, make, use it once, chuck it in the bin.
So it was plastic.
It's plastic.
Okay, so what do you say to the argument that plastic is okay, is just massively misunderstood and totally overused? Would you like to get rid of it
There is
forever?
Another reason. Well, I mean, first, let's just say this is not plastic's fault. Who knew man could invent a material that lives forever? Who knew? You know, who knew?
It was man rather than woman.
I think it was. Yeah, it was the man who invented the replacement for the ivory billiard ball.
Okay.
That was the invention of plastic.
I was going to say that it was a man.
Yeah, it was a man, because I don't think we played a lot of snooker, actually. I think at that time.
Snooker. Anyway, that's not the subject at the moment.
So let's say it was a man. It was a man, and obviously it's a byproduct of the fossil fuel industry, as we know. But what was your question again?
Well, so.
Oh, yes, it's not plastic's fault. I've got it now. So it's not plastic's fault. Because we invented this extraordinary material, we should have put it on a pedestal. We should have treated it like gold. We should have priced it accordingly. And instead, we used it for everything. And we used it, 40% of all plastic is used for packaging. I'm not buying the packaging. I'm buying the thing inside the packaging.
Exactly.
So that's the madness of how we have misused this incredible material. And that's what we've got to wean ourselves off. And the other reason that we have to is because of the impact on human health. And only last week, I was speaking to 4 professors, all in the NHS, who were saying they all know plastic is bad for us.
Tell me what it's doing.
Plastic is not on the periodic table.
No, that's
Plastic
true.
is a mix of chemicals, some of which are toxic. They are known to be toxic. There are endocrine disruptors within plastic, particularly the stretchy kinds, and endocrine disruptors are impacting our health in an extraordinary way. We live in a toxic world, we know that, but the amount of plastic that is in our world right now, when you're a little baby, there is twice as much plastic in a baby poop as there is in an adult poop.
Wow.
That's the disproportionate impact. There's plastic in placenta, there's plastic in our blood. We are breathing in plastic now. You cannot eat or drink anything that doesn't have microplastics in it anymore, unless it's being extremely filtered. It's in the food system. It's everywhere. And the impact on human health, the fundamental impact is, of course, the endocrine disruptors on our endocrine system. The impact on fertility is extraordinary. And all of these professors, the doctors, the environmental toxicologists know that plastic is harming our health. And for me, as an entrepreneur, I look at how can we change this?
Well, it's a huge opportunity, right?
It's a huge opportunity. It's also a huge corporate risk. that is coming down the line like a juggernaut.
Right.
So if retailers, if brands, if businesses don't want to wean themselves from this incredibly cheap material, the one thing that is going to make them want to wean themselves off it faster is contingent liability on their balance sheet, because there is impact on human health.
Okay. All right. I want to talk forever, Sian, but I think that's a really good, if one call to action, one thing people can go and do right now.
Right now, really consume consciously, because I think plastic is something that has enabled things to be so cheap that we buy too much stuff. So consume consciously, particularly with your clothes, because that's the invisible use of plastic. Fast fashion couldn't exist without petrochemicals. So have a look at those labels. If it's anything to do with poly something, any of those technical yarns, it's plastic. Try not to buy it.
Sian Sutherland, thank you very much for stopping by the Hub Culture Studio, and I'm Edie Lush.
Thank you so much, Edie.